The frothy white plant everyone on this verge has decided is poison is actually mild, edible, and eaten for centuries. And the taller, quieter plant standing 3 feet to its right is the one that can kill you. Late spring, a single ditch along a country lane. A froth of white lace runs the length of it, and almost everyone who walks past has already made up their mind. Poison. They give it a wide berth. They never check. That white lace is cow parsley, Anthriscus sylvestris, the most common umbellifer in Britain, and one of the most wrongly feared plants we have. It is mild. It is edible. It tastes faintly of aniseed and carrot, and people ate it for centuries. But 3 feet to its right, on the same bank, stands another plant that also throws up white flowers on tall stems. And that one can end you. So here is the question this whole thing answers. Which is which? Before you ever reach out and touch either one, look at both, side by side, because one small feature decides everything. Let's do cow parsley properly, slowly. The leaves are fern-like, soft, feathery, cut into fine divisions, a bit like flat-leaf parsley that got ambitious. The stem is grooved. Run your thumb up it, and you feel ridges, and it is green, and it is slightly hairy. Never spotted. That matters, so hold on to it. And cow parsley is early. It flowers first, in April and May, when most of the verge is still catching up. If a lane is white with lace in spring, that froth is almost certainly this plant. Now the neighbor. Hemlock, Conium maculatum. It grows taller. It flowers later, into June and July, so it takes over the verge after cow parsley has mostly finished. Its stem is smooth and hairless, no ridges, no soft fuzz, and it is streaked and blotched with purple, like someone flicked a paintbrush of dark ink up the stalk. Crush a leaf, and it smells foul, mousy, a stale, rank animal smell that cow parsley simply does not have. So, 4 features tell them apart. Purple blotching on the stem, the smell when you crush it, the texture of the stem, grooved and hairy, or smooth and streaked, and flowering time, April and May against June and July. If you only remember one thing today, remember the stem. Get the stem wrong, and you have made a fatal mistake. There is no partial credit here. And hemlock is not the only killer in this family. In wet ditches you get hemlock water dropwort, Oenanthe crocata, which some people rate as the single most poisonous plant in Britain. Its roots look like pale parsnips, and they are deadly. There is also fool's parsley, Ethusa sinapium, smaller, sneaking into gardens and field edges, named for exactly the mistake it invites. 4 plants, same white umbrella of flowers. One of them is supper, and 3 of them are a coroner's report, which is why where they grow matters. Cow parsley likes disturbed, nitrogen-rich ground, road verges, hedge bottoms, field margins, the shady edge where a wood meets a field. Anywhere the soil has been knocked about and fed. That is why it explodes along mown verges and fertilized field edges. You mow it. You feed the ground with clippings and runoff, and it comes back thicker every year. That white wall along the motorway slip road in May is not an accident. It is cow parsley doing exactly what it loves. Hemlock leans a little different. It favors damp, disturbed waste ground, and the edges of rivers and ditches. Old building sites, wet field corners, the muddy margin of a stream. So the 2 of them can absolutely end up on the same bank, 3 feet apart, both waving white flowers at you, and only those small features between them. Here is what should nag at you. If cow parsley is safe, mild, and was on the table for hundreds of years, why did it vanish from the kitchen? The answer is not that it turned dangerous. It never did. The answer is who its neighbor is, and a receipt from the greengrocer. But before we get to that receipt, go back and look at who actually used this plant. Because the record is real, and it is older than you'd think. Cow parsley turns up in old country records as a wild pot herb and a fodder plant. Nothing grand. It was a plant you gathered from the hedge bottom in April and May, when it flowered first and softest, and it was a plant you cut for the animals. Farm hands knew it. Cottage kitchens knew it. It was ordinary, useful, and free. Now, the old herbals. John Gerard's Herbal of 1597 walks through the whole parsley family in careful detail. Culpeper's writings of the 1650s do the same. And here is the thing I want you to hold on to. Both of them take real pains to separate the wholesome members of that family from the deadly ones. That tells you something. It tells you the men writing these books already knew how easily this group of plants could fool a person. They weren't casual about it. They named, they described, they warned. That is a fact about those books. It is not a prescription. Gerard sorting the safe from the fatal in 1597 doesn't tell you what to do with your hands today. It tells you that 400 years ago, people were nervous about exactly the same confusion you should be nervous about now. And the deadly twin has its own dark fame in the record. The most famous cup of poison in all of Western history was hemlock. The draught given to Socrates in 399 BC, recorded by Plato, the philosopher made to drink it and described the cold creeping up his legs while his friends watched. That is a fact about a text. It is not a recipe, and I'm not handing you one. But it should sit in your mind every time you're standing on a verge, deciding whether that stem is safe. People have died from this family. One of them changed philosophy forever. This is exactly the point where a single mistake in the old records got people killed, so let's make sure you never make it. Before we go on, stop for a second. The identification only really works written down next to the lookalikes. The features, the seasons, the plants it gets confused with. I put all of it into a written document. It's linked below, and the QR code is on your screen. Take 5 seconds, grab it, and come back. Right. So why did a plant this well documented, this thoroughly discussed, this safe, quietly disappear from the kitchen? Not because anyone banned it. Not because it turned dangerous overnight. The honest answer is much duller than that, and much more human. Cultivated carrots happened, parsnips happened, cheap garden herbs, grown in tidy rows, sold by the bunch, happened. Once you could buy a sweet, reliable carrot for a few pennies, or pull a parsnip you planted yourself. Why on earth would you go crawling into a ditch to gather a wild plant that looks exactly like the thing that killed Socrates? You wouldn't. Nobody would. That is the whole story of the fall. Two things, side by side. Fear of the deadly twin standing 3 feet away on the same verge, and the plain convenience of the greengrocer's crate. A risky wild forage became pointless the moment a safe one sat on a shelf. There is no conspiracy here. Nobody suppressed cow parsley. No industry buried it. No authority hid it to protect a profit. It simply lost a competition it was always going to lose, against a vegetable that couldn't kill you and a shop that saved you the walk. Fear plus the greengrocer. That's it. That's the receipt. And honestly, that ordinariness is what I find interesting about it. We tell ourselves grand stories about why old knowledge vanishes. Usually the truth is that something cheaper and safer turned up, and people, being people, took the easier path. So the folklore explains the fear. The herbals explain the caution. The greengrocer explains the fall. Strip all of that away, and one question remains standing on the verge with these two plants. What has actually been studied? Not what a book from 1597 believed. Not what a country record listed. What does real modern science actually know about this whole group? The honest answer splits the two plants completely, and it is the killer, not cow parsley, that the real research is about. The real research is about the killer, not the harmless one. Cow parsley is documented as an edible wild plant, mild and faintly of aniseed, and that is roughly where its scientific story ends. Nobody is running trials on it. There is no library of papers waiting for you. It is food. It is well described botanically, and that is the honest limit of it. The serious study on this whole family points the other way, at the plants standing beside it. The conine alkaloids in hemlock have been genuinely researched, and they are genuinely lethal. So is the onanthotoxin in hemlock water dropwort, the one lurking in wet ditches. These are not folk warnings. They are chemistry that has killed people and livestock, studied precisely because it kills. When you read that a plant in this group is dangerous, that part is not scare story. That part is measured. And beyond those two things, cow parsley is edible, the poisons are lethal. Much of this group is simply understudied. If you go looking for deep research on the everyday uses of the harmless umbellifers, you find thin ground. Little exists. And where little research exists, that is the answer. I would rather tell you that than dress up a gap as a secret. So here is the part that keeps you alive. This is the test, in order, and it is small enough to carry in your head. First, the stem. Look for purple. Hemlock's stem is smooth and hairless, and it is streaked and blotched with purple, like ink soaked into the skin. Cow parsley's stem is grooved, green and slightly hairy, and it is never spotted. Run your eye down it. A smooth stem with purple blotches is a stop sign. A grooved, hairy, plain green stem is the mild one. Second, the smell. Crush a leaf. Cow parsley smells green, faintly of carrot and aniseed. Hemlock, crushed, smells foul and mousy. A rank, sour mineral stink that your nose recoils from. That smell is a warning your body understands before your brain catches up. Third, the timing. Cow parsley flowers first, its white lace out in April and May, along the lanes before most of its cousins wake up. Hemlock comes later, flowering into June and July, when the first froth has already gone to seed. The calendar alone will not save you, but it stacks the odds. Say it back to yourself now. Purple, smell, timing. Those three keep you alive, and the rule that sits over all three is simpler still. Never gather where you cannot be completely certain. Not almost certain. Certain. If the stem, the smell, and the season do not all agree, you walk away and you eat something from a shop. There is no forage worth a conian mistake. There is one more thing the field test cannot fix, and it is the ground itself. Even a perfect identification means nothing on a poisoned verge. Never gather from sprayed roadside edges or from busy roads thick with exhaust and herbicide. The plant soaks up what it stands in. A clean cow parsley 2 feet from passing lorries is not clean. And if you are new to this or unsure at any step, the honest advice is the least glamorous one. Just don't. Look, learn the stem, learn the smell, and let the eating wait until certainty is boring. But here is where I want to leave you, because the whole story bends back to something gentle. Go and stand on a verge this month and watch what is actually happening on that white lace. Hoverflies working the flat flower heads, dozens of them, drawn by the easy landing. Orange-tip butterflies drifting along the hedge bottom, the males with those bright wingtips, laying their eggs on plants in exactly this family. Cow parsley is one of the great early pollinator tables of the English spring. That is what it is genuinely good for. Not a medicine cabinet, not a miracle. A verge full of insects in May, feeding the year into motion. So the plant everyone calls poison turns out to be the one holding the lane together. And the quiet one 3 feet to its right is the one that earns the fear. Same ditch, same afternoon. Purple, smell, timing. And now you can tell them apart before you ever reach out. Tell me in the comments which plant you have been pulling up for years without knowing what it was. I read them, and half the time you send me the next one worth a whole film. Speaking of which, next week we go to the plant in 80% of British lawns that was grown on purpose for 400 years, until a machine turned it into a weed overnight. I will see you on the next verge.